the Wild West down in LA suddenly, and that despite all this, the medical marijuana people have behaved as adults mostly. 98% of them are, people who have been responsible about their medical status and have been good neighbors. And to the point that now that we are looking at the Tax and Regulate initiative, which has double the amount of signatures to qualify. Before we even went into the signature gathering for Tax and Regulate, 56% of all Californians thought we should tax and regulate cannabis for everybody over 21. And that means that the medical marijuana people have represented. What happens when they have legal pot? Well, they got rid of the corner drug dealers. We got rid of the street scene because the patients came here, and if there was some joker out in the parking lot, they'd come and tell our staff because they don't want us to lose our license. So we got rid of the jokers in the parking lot and on the corner, and we've cleaned up the neighborhood. There's no more dope dealing in the streets. It's been wonderful. And we got rid of the thugs that hover around illegal marijuana grows. I can call the cops. I have a contract with the town through my use permit, which I went through 6 months of planning commission hearings and stuff. But this contract with the town of Fairfax as a business license and then a use permit, they zoned for marijuana in my little space here, 700 square feet. It's the only place that can have cannabis. Regulating us 84 conditions, which is onerous and tremendous amount, and a lot of it really turned out to be unnecessary. And with this, I had a contract with the town of Fairfax, a business license and a use permit. And once you grant a use permit, this is like having a house. It's a possession that they can't take away from you without due process. Business license, they can toss that, whatever. They can yank a business license for any reason. But a use permit is a valuable piece of property that they can't take away once they grant it, unless everything's wrong. But of course, we have been obedient. I hate to admit this, but we've been good, and we have been enforcing our law. So I would say, as de facto law enforcement, I've been enforcing 215, which I think is being an officer of the peace, and marijuana peace is a healthy and wonderful thing for community. When we brought the club here, it was a campaign headquarters. It was emergency access through a delivery service where people would contact us before 215. And it was very scary and dangerous and very small until they raided Dennis during 215, and 12,000 patients had no medical access. And I got hundreds of people outside my little doors here in a couple of days. And they were all very, very ill. And it was, well, do we get them medical marijuana or do we let them die on our doorstep? So everybody put the money together and went and got a pound, And the thugs were out there. I got death threats and all this crazy stuff during the campaign. Then when we won and the police didn't know what to do, then I got more death threats and more thugs. And the police chief knew that we were trying to do the right thing. And so he calls me, kind of makes a little contact with me at a town council meeting. He said, we need to talk. I said, I used to be a bureaucrat before I was a cop. And there's this thing you need called a use permit, and I'll help you do it. So the chief of police of the town of Fairfax, Jim Anderson, wrote 84 conditions that satisfied his bureaucratic police chief, really heroic person. He did everything as he felt would be the right way to do it, and he helped push through this historical permit as a social model, because he thought that if now that it's legal and there are people out there that need medical access, like a friend of his who had AIDS, an officer down, and then they should be able to have it legally. And when you have somebody down, you go save your people. And so he developed a permit so that his family, his friends who were sick, could have legal and safe access to, you know, and everybody has a patient in their family, even the chief of police, you know. So we had all these rules, most use permits, 10, 20, 30 rules, 84 rules, and audits. And I had this one really antagonistic, some people that were antagonistic about the whole thing, but I had the town council votes to override. It's this big drama in the newspapers every day, every month, on and on and on. We get our permit, and I can call the cops. Within 2 police calls, every thug had been hovering, disappeared. Never to return. That was 13 years ago. 2 police calls. I haven't had anybody try to rob us. Haven't anybody try to, you know, bother our patients, bother me, yell things at us, stand out there and jump up and down. They go away. We can call the police to protect us. And we haven't really used up too many police resources. 2 phone calls. That was 13 years ago. Thank you. You know? And then one time we had this terrible storm, and it was 100-mile-an-hour wind, and it set off the alarm, and the police showed up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you know, and that was really nice. And we've been broken into once, but the police showed up in 90 seconds because they're just right over here. So, you know, that never happened again either. So I think altogether in the last 13 years, there may have been less than half a dozen times that the police have actually had to help. And so we've been very light on the town resources. But it's been a safety factor that has been just incredibly relieving, you know. And we also, with the 84 conditions, we developed our own house rules. I've always had a money-back guarantee. And now, with your receipt, you can get your money back. If the medicine doesn't work, you can bring it back, trade it in, or get your money back and try something else. We also were adjudicated by the state of California to be an out-of-pocket, 100% tax-deductible expense. So if you have state taxes, you can write off all your purchases at the Marin Alliance. So I save thousands that way, and many people do. Not deductible on federal yet, but someday. We've also have a free attorney for your medical marijuana case, which before I had the club and all this, I had been beaten up by the cops for my medicine. So I went to jail for marijuana, and I learned a lot. And I came out, and Dennis took me in and helped fix me up from that. And so I was very interested in not having any other patient go through that. So I started working as an office assistant for couple of different lawyers that I met through Dennis and medical marijuana. And ended up working as a paralegal for many years for different lawyers in marijuana defense and anti-forfeiture and civil rights, and wanted to find out how to protect my people. So we have always provided a free attorney to medical marijuana patients, even before 215, which was why the Marin Alliance for Medical Marijuana was founded. And the Cannabis Buyers Club just sort of like happened, you know. So we are both the Marin Alliance. And luckily, the last several years, we haven't had to use our attorney bank too much. Very, very, very few skirmishes. Even during the Bush administration, which was very, other than myself being terrorized and frightened and followed by agents for years, they didn't bother the patients. They still, you know, medical marijuana, we don't want the sick people, we just want the evil criminals like me.